Oh, it didn't. I'm shocked. So it's staying pretty good. I'm going to still whisk a little bit. For anxiety. Merry meet and welcome! I'm Taylor and today we're going to be taking on the lemon curd. We're making this to go along with our scones muesli, but I'm pretty sure there's some other recipes that use this, but I'm definitely very excited. Another summer fruit to be able to celebrate with, even if this maybe doesn't come out around summer, that's when I'm making this. But anyways, I hope you're having a great day. Let's go ahead and get started. Merry meet again. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I know this is a different angle than we're used to. I thought all of this took place on the stove, so I was getting set up for that, but these first few things actually happen off heat. And so we're just going to honor that. So to start us off, we have, let me move this out of the way, we have what is called veg egg. And so this is help give a vegan egg yolk. I got this actually to do some actual like fried eggs for one of the friends' videos. It is not even, I haven't worked on it yet. This is actually the first time I'll ever be using this. So I'm very excited because I didn't even think about the fact that I would need egg yolks specifically for this, which egg yolks are notoriously the hardest thing to, I believe, to replicate. Yep. And so with this, it says you use about a teaspoon of mix with a 1/4 cup of water, and then you blend in a blender or whisk it. And so we're just gonna whisk it. I'm gonna just trust in myself. And you get about 4 yolks with that, which is perfect because that's the exact amount we need today. It does recommend to do about, to double up the servings if you're using a blender to ensure the blades can get it, because it's showing like your standard, like larger blender that you guys have probably seen versus like your 1 drink blender. And then I did want to share, so it is very interesting, the things that are in here, because one of the main things is the nutritional yeast, and then we have sodium alginate. We have Indian black salt, or, oh, what is that called? It also goes by like a K name, like a Kanal, and then I can't remember the second word, because I know it's not salt, but I feel like it starts with an S. So yeah, so Indian black salt is notoriously used to help bring in that yolky flavor. If you've been looking up other like vegan or plant-based ideas, when it comes to eggs, that's typically what you're gonna see whenever you're trying to get that flavor. So yeah, very exciting. I mean, it smells like nutritional yeast, so adds up. I'm pretty, and yeah, and it does say that this does not solidify and it just stays runny, which for our purpose today is perfect, and I'll experiment more with that with the other recipes. So let's go ahead. We have our whisk, we have our teaspoon in a bowl. We're going to be using this bowl overall, so we're just going to like keep going. So first things first, let's get our yolks. We have our 1/4 cup of water here. So yeah, it definitely smells, so it kind of lost that nutritional yeast smell. You get more of that like eggy smell, which is from that salt. It's interesting because you don't get the viscosity that you would with like a normal egg yolk itself. Here we go. I feel like this would be really good in ramen. You know what I mean? Like to put this in your ramen broth while it's boiling the noodles. Maybe it's because it smells so much like egg is why I think that. Anyways, so now what you would do is go ahead and whisk together your sugar and yolks. So we're going to go ahead and add our 2/3 cups of sugar here. And so we want to keep whisking this until it comes about a pale yellow. So we'll have to determine if that actually is what's going to happen. it did lighten up immediately, so it is already a lighter yellow than what we had previously. I'm trying to make sure I show you, but also that it doesn't fall out of the bowl. It immediately thickened up. This actually feels like a normal, well, what I remember of a normal egg yolk or egg when you've been mixing it. And then you just want to do it for about 2 minutes. There must be something wrong. I keep mixing in counterclockwise. My mom taught me that that's a superstition where if you find yourself like mixing your coffee or your drink, just stirring, or just if you're like walking, anything, any rhythm, and you find yourself going into a counterclockwise motion, that means there's something that's not flowing quite right. I love how as soon as I say that, I'm like, oh, now I can do this again. But literally, even while I was working on another recipe while stirring the jam, if you know, you know. And I kept like going, like not being able to continue doing it straightforward. So it's definitely thickening up, which is good. Is it getting the pale yellow? No, but I'm fine. That'll be fine. The main thing you want actually is that the sugar gets dissolved. And this is kind of perfect to use the veg egg, because since the sugar needs to, I did not set a timer, since the sugar needs to dissolve, the veg egg needs to dissolve as well as the sugar, it kind of makes it really nice to blend it all together. So you probably could get away with even putting this all in the blender if you didn't want to whisk it like me. I'm going to assume that's probably been at least 2 minutes. It's not really getting any thicker and it's not lightening up. Again, that's going to be because we're not using those same elements, and so the chemicals are going to be very different from what we're working here than if we were using the true animal product. So now we're going to be adding in all of our lemon zest and juice. I'm actually going to leave this right here while we do that. So of course, first thing is going to be zesting it. So I like to hold my, it's called a microplane. I like to hold my tool because you can see how it has like a curved edge, and so it's like can hold in here. So you're probably used to seeing people do it in the manner to where it immediately grates into the mixture, which is all fine and dandy. If you're trying to mix up your, if you need to measure your zest ahead of time though, it's not just like of a lemon, but it's like 1 or 2 teaspoons, then something that you can do though is you take it on the backside and then you can still do those long forms. Oh my gosh, I'm not even showing it. But you take it on the backside and then see it'll hold this and you can do it. But anyways, we don't have the best angle for this. I think you get it. I'm going to go ahead and zest these lemons, especially since I zest them using my other hand. So it's even harder for me to hold them. Could I have already done this part? Yes. So I might just see you again after I'm done zesting all this so that you don't have to worry about this part. I'm doing 3 small lemons. Okay, so we have our, you can kind of see it, our lemon juice and zest, and so we're going to go ahead. I'm not going to tilt it now because this bowl is a little bit smaller. And until the lemon juice is incorporated, it can splash a lot easier. So I'm going to go around the sides and get those edges whisked in, because that's one of the great things about liquids is their cohesive properties. Depending on their viscosity is how thin or thick it is, but with our cohesive properties, you are able to kind of literally whip them into shape and be like, okay, you're now going in this direction, and that way it's not going all over the slides, and that's how you get a fluid motion in liquid. So she says to do this until it's well incorporated for about a minute. So I feel like this is one where you definitely want to make sure, like, because if you stop, it'll probably separate. Oh, it didn't. I'm shocked. So it's staying pretty good. I'm going to still whisk a little bit for anxiety. So that's also probably a good thing about the fact that we're using veg egg and not an animal product, because that's actually probably another reason why it would separate, is between like the texture of the egg yolk. But since we use water for ours, it's going to accept the lemon juice a lot easier. At least that's my theory. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start putting this into our little pot over here, as you can see. I might move it up here just because this is a smaller burner and it can have more control over the heat. And we're going, yeah, I'll see you soon. All right, so we have it on medium-low heat. As you know, on a gas range, it's going to naturally get hotter. I'm going to pour this in here. Make sure I get all the bits. Okay, and then it says to stir vigorously and add pads of butter. I've never made lemon curd. In case you can tell. Stirring vigorously, begin to add pads of butter. So here's part of my problem. I thought I would just be melting all of the butter, so I was like, for once I didn't cut it up. Normally I do. So let me somewhat cut it up. It's so soft now, it probably won't matter, so that's exciting. It just says begins to add. Never mind. We're just gonna put this in, guys. Someone is just screaming right now. No, not all the butter at once. Vegan butter, of course. We know, guys. We know. So, because to stir vigorously, it makes it sound like I'm supposed to whisk it over this heat. I also definitely, for some reason, thought that this would... I'm wondering if I should still be using the whisk. I'm gonna grab the whisk and we'll work between both. This is all experimental. Thank you for being here. I have no doubt, since we have these flavors, it's at least going to taste decent. But yeah, so we're just supposed to stir these in vigorously for about 6 to 7 minutes, waiting for it to thicken and form a curd, which, when you think about it, is very interesting. Because, so you've probably heard of like weighing curds from like from Little Miss Tuffet. And if you, well, I don't know if you would have, but in normal butter making, what you're going to do is, it's actually once the curds start forming is when you start getting your butter, and the whey is like the milk off to the side. Same thing with like cheese and stuff, depending on how you're working on it. If you've ever made like a homemade ricotta, I'm pretty sure even a vegan ricotta like follows the same kind of thing, and that's why cheesecloth exists, because you get those curds. This is what I believe, so if I'm using the wrong term, I apologize. I did zero research. This is just kind of like, oh, I'm pretty sure this is this. And it's just interesting, like the things in the middle. So I can imagine that's why we melt a butter in it, and also so that the butter, what's really interesting about science in general, when you're trying to add something and you add heat to it, but you're going to cool it and allow it to thicken and solidify more, is that you're able to take those properties that you took, say from the solid form of butter, and as it thins out, if depending on your elements and such. Obviously this is a already thought of recipe, so we don't have to think about those elements, but it's going to come together to where instead it'll incorporate those flavors but take on the molecular structure of that butter, since essentially what we're looking for is that lemon curd. With this though, curds are more wet, I believe. Oh, I have a burn on my finger and it's just started to blister. That's exciting. But anyways, so who was just singing? Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much my little, like, oh, this is interesting, my little musings. I am not a professional, do not know what I'm talking about, just my own experiences. I personally love to learn. I'll probably look this up a little bit more later for myself, and it's the same kind of thing I would encourage you, to just find out more for your own information versus just hearing what one other person says and taking that as fact. A lot of times we don't have to hear something and be like, oh, that's instantly right. You can hear it, accept it, but you don't have to take it in until it gets confirmed, or you yourself feel that it is right. And that's with everything. Okay. The butter is certainly there. Here's my thing. She keeps saying that these things are gonna thicken up. Maybe I'm just not made for whisking for long periods of time. Because we're about to hit the 6-minute mark and this hasn't thickened at all. Sorry if you heard my phone. I'm gonna turn the heat up a little bit because I'm assuming that's probably part of the problem. See, I've made a lemon pie when I was a child, and I knew, but it was the kind I had to set in the fridge, which was hilarious because then my grandmother was just like, all right, like it's supposed to go immediately into the fridge, and we put it in the fridge for 30 minutes, not long enough to let it set. And my grandmother was just like, all right, you can go home. And I was like, okay, I'll come back for the pie. And she was like, no, take it with you now. And it was the summer in Phoenix, Arizona. So immediately it melted. Immediately. It didn't have a chance after that. And I know it was due to that a sudden temperature change because it was so hot outside that it was just like, no, because it wasn't supposed to chill at room temperature, let alone at like over 100 degrees. This literally is not thickening up at all. Maybe because I added all the butter at once, but I choose to believe that that's not it. Okay. Well, I'm gonna keep doing this, or I'm gonna set it off of the heat, but I'm gonna try this for a few more minutes. I'm not gonna record it though, and I'm gonna set it to the side, and hopefully we'll be checking in with our final results, and it will be all nice and thickened up after allowing it to cool. So we shall see, because normally that's what happens with everything we added here. That's like, you're just thinking about the science behind it. Oh my gosh, I didn't even think. I'm like, it's not happening. I'm using vegan butter. I wonder if that's why. Normally you can use this replacement, but I wonder if it's because of that. But then how do they make the vegan butter? Anyways, so many questions. We'll check in with you when we have our final results. Mary meat again. So as you can see, we have two different jars here. with lemon curd. We'll talk about this one first. You can kind of see it does separate a little bit, and I realized my mistake. I realized what was going on. We even kind of alluded to it, so you may already know, but the egg does not get thicker like a normal egg yolk when adding heat to it. He literally says that it's going to remain runny, and like it warns against this. So my mind was just thinking, like, if you literally are trying to make like a fried egg, I was like, okay, that's not so bad, it'll be fine. I didn't think about the fact that like I'm using it to add heat, and that's how the lemon curd actually gets thick. So because I didn't know, I just didn't know. I thought it was the butter that was doing the thickening, but it's the heat being added to the eggs. Anyways, so what I will say is it's so good. You still get all the flavors. Even if it does separate, all I have to do is either shake the jar or stir it, and it is like, it's kind of a good dipping. It's like a dip that I'm going to use for, as you'll see, the scones. And I think that'll be just fine for this experiment. I don't think I could make use this lemon curd recipe to be in a pie, because again, it's adding that heat to the yolk that would cook it, but this is meant to remain runny. So I think that's just where it goes. It would be interesting to maybe play around with, because now seeing like the ingredients they use for their runny yolk, like maybe making a version using like my own nutritional yeast and Indian black salt. There's more, they have more ingredients. It's not just that, but using those as a base and maybe playing around with that. But anyways, more to come. So for this is, I wanted to see if adding chia seeds to the lemon curd would help, because that's what we use to help thicken up the blackberry mint jam. And as you can see, it like, the color is not as nice to look at, and it didn't thicken up at all. So I don't know if maybe because normally chia seeds like thicken up pretty fast, so we'll see if maybe it'll just continue, and I'll let you know in the summary below. But otherwise, this is kind of a fail, kind of a success, in the sense of I'm glad I tried this and did it, and I did succeed in the flavors, and I have no problem dipping my bread into lemon goo. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.